Corporate brands are usually very generic content. It usually is like a team has a strategy, marketing department, there's copywriters, there's HR, there's legal. That's where everything goes to die in terms of creativity. The problem here is if we start behaving like a corporate brand, we will get the engagement of corporate brands, which is no one gives an F. In creative culture, we tend to emulate what other people do. Somebody uses a color, we all use the same color. Somebody uses a new trendy font, we all use the same font. What we should be doing is doing the opposite. That's how you stand out. And it's very easy to stand out because you just have to be more of yourself. I'm gonna tell you a life lesson right now that it's gonna be very hard for you to hear and you're not gonna believe me, but one day you're gonna send me a DM and you're gonna say, it's true. You don't lie, Chris. Here's the truth. We're gonna kick this off. We're live here. It's day 2. My voice is a little worse for the wear. First of all, thank you all for being here. It's today's Ask Me Anything. We're gonna kick it off with Tay. Tay's got some things he wants to talk about.
How do you go about building a personal and business brand online without their presence seeming redundant?
Okay, it's a good question. You guys hear the question? So he's like, there's a personal brand and we'll just call it a corporate brand, okay?
Corporate brand.
A corporate brand so people understand it. You guys understand the difference between the two? The personal brand it's a human and the business brand is like, we'll just draw a building, okay? Something like that. Now, many of you have 2. How many people have at least 2 accounts they manage on Instagram or whatever? At least 2, right? So most of you then just have a personal brand, right? So you have a corporate, a business brand, and then you have a personal brand. And he's like, how do I manage 2 accounts and not make it feel redundant? All right. Are you posting the same content on both? Is that why it's redundant?
The packaging might be different, if you will, like maybe a different clip or a different moment, but it just still feels the same.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you right now. We all know what corporate brands do. There's more question or fuzziness around what personal brands do, right? Okay. What is the purpose of a corporate brand? When you see Coca-Cola, Nike, Tesla, or what's the name of your business?
Maverick Culture.
Maverick Culture.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of you posting on the corporate side? What do you think it is?
To get leads.
Get leads?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds pretty good, right? Get leads? Okay. What else is it going to do?
Build awareness.
Awareness? So almost sounds like leads.
Yeah.
That's good. What else?
Conversions to sell.
Yeah. Okay. Can you think of one corporation that has a subscription model? Think of them right now in your mind. Probably starts with an N, ends in an X. Let's look at a successful company right now that has a subscription model and see how they use Instagram. Are they using it? Do you follow Netflix on Instagram? No. Who follows Netflix on Instagram? No one really follows that account, right? Does anybody follow Apple Plus? Disney Plus? Hulu? I mean, I'm out of names here. What else is there? Toonami, I don't know. Or HBO Max. Nobody follows them, period. So they all do subscriptions. Anybody else know what you use your corporate brand for on social? Okay, what?
Engagement.
Engagement, okay, I'll put that up there, that's good. Engagement.
Like getting new employees, like on LinkedIn.
What do we call that, recruitment?
Yeah, recruitment.
Recruitment, yeah, I think that's good. Those are good. This is excellent, keep going. Who's got another one? Anything else? Maybe talk about your mission. If you're a mission-based organization, seems like a good place, right? Do mission. A lot of it is PR. Product launches, what is that called? Damage control, those kinds of things, PR. All right, that's a pretty good list, okay? Now, do you notice something? Who typically has more followers, the corporate brand or the CEO or the founder? By a wide margin, right? If you look at Tesla and you look at Elon Musk, it's not even close. This is shocking to me. If you look at Apple and Tim Cook, who's not even the founder, Tim Cook has way more followers than Apple. Yeah, I know, it's wild. You look at Virgin versus Richard Branson. Totally different, okay? It seems to hold true if it's an interesting CEO. So now we know, now I wanna ask you something. You have a brand, a corporate brand, all of you do, your business name, right? And then there's you, Jane or Jack Smith, whatever it is, right? Are you doing the same thing? Let's go down the list. Okay, I'll pick out the most obvious one. Are you posting on your personal account to recruit people? Anybody? Nah. Are you doing it to do PR? You shouldn't.
Yeah. I
No,
it's like
you
it
shouldn't.
be.
You shouldn't.
But
You can if you want, but I advise you not to. All right, nah. Let's see what else you're doing. This one's a special one, so we'll just put this aside. We're taking this out. Okay, now here's the problem. If you post on the corporate brand to get engagement, who gets more engagement? The personal brand or the corporate brand?
Personal brand.
Personal brand. So we should move this one over here, right? It's unrealistic, and I'll tell you why that corporate brands do not get a lot of engagement. Corporate brands are usually very generic content, super generic content. It usually is like a team has a strategy, marketing department, there's copywriters, there's HR, there's legal. That's where everything goes to die in terms of creativity. Send it to a committee and all creativity dies. That's just how it is. It has too many masters to make happy. And then what they do is they just water it down until everyone's happy, which means no one's happy. There's a quote, a good compromise is when no one's happy. That's where corporate brands go to die. The problem here is if we start behaving like a corporate brand, we will get the engagement of corporate brands. That's the problem. They're not supposed to be the same. Now, this is the voice of many, right? It's the voice of many because it's the committee that decides. This is the voice of one. It's your voice, your beliefs, your mission, your attitude, your style, your beliefs. It's super simple. But what I have said before is a lot of personal brands, they woke up in the morning and said, we should act like a corporate brand. Let's do everything the corporate brands and we'll get the exact same results as the corporate brands, which is no one gives an F. No one cares. It's really weird. And all the time, corporate brands are trying to be more human. The good news is you're already human. There's only one of you, so do you. It will work, right? It makes sense? I'm going to ask you something. I already forgot everybody's name who spoke up on stage, the inspirational keynotes. The first two people, actually all three of them, what did they do? They told stories about their past. Their past, okay? So that you got a sense of who they are, where you're from, where you're born. You tell that story. Why do people tell stories about where they're born and where they're from? Do you know why? It's because it's called cultural currency. You're trading on cultural currency. When somebody comes on and say, who's here from New York? So then they all like, we from New York? We know each other already. Well, from New York, but South Bronx. And he kept saying, I wanted to get out. I need to get out of the ghetto or the hood. We understand that. So where you're from is a shorthand for you to connect with people. Like your language, your customs, your culture, the food that you eat. It says a lot about you. Here's the beautiful part. Telling your origin story is not that difficult, but you need to tell it. You need to tell it often, okay? And the contrast between where you started and where you are now makes a big difference, right? So Devin was a guy from the Bronx who didn't know how to do art, who got in trouble and arrested and didn't want to disappoint his grandma. You remember that story, right? It's going to stick with you long after today. And then when he made it, if you built up that story like it was more struggle than that, we would have all cheered for him. Because we are Devin and Devin is us. We all want to achieve something. We all want to make somebody that we care a lot about happy. We don't want to disappoint those people. So there's a lot of connection that's happening without you even knowing what's happening. And if you did like what you do is if you add dialogue or different voices in telling the story, which he did. He started speaking a little bit in Spanish. And as soon as he did, what did the audience do? Oh, I didn't understand a word, but I knew that they were feeling something. We all don't think our immigrant story or our origin story matters until you tell it. Okay, so all of you who are sitting there like, I don't know what to say, start there. Tell your origin story, your backstory, where you're born, how many brothers and sisters you might have, only child, firstborn, lastborn, your parents' stories. They're the firstborn, or first one to go to college, or first one to go to high school. That matters. And you tell that story, everybody who shares that idea or that emotion, even if they don't share your exact story, are going to feel like they're with you and you are them. You represent them. Does that make sense? This is why corporate brands can't do this. They were not really born. They were created. They don't have that same cultural currency because there is none. The closest version of the corporate origin story is Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs were in a garage in Palo Alto. the mythical Silicon Valley garage startup that turns into a $3 trillion company. That's as close as they get. And if you're really into branding and marketing, that's what they do for corporate brands. Colonel Sanders, Wendy's, Dave and Wendy's, they tell that story. Now, when I get into the personal branding stuff, there's 3 stories you can tell, okay? What we call your origin story, which everybody knows, the origination, the beginning, okay? The defining moment where everything changes. I'm sorry, there's one more, the inciting incident. I messed up on the order here, okay? The inciting incident is, there's this thing, this is the old world or the ordinary and the new world. Look for in your timeline when everything changes. This is a really, really significant moment. You guys watch Loki? Great series, right? So good. Art direction is like, oh my God. All right, whatever. The sacred timeline, that was you. Something happened in your life. It forked. You picked one new path. That becomes the new sacred timeline. Your life is totally different. It's never the same again. Do you guys know what that moment is? Everybody search in your mind, look in your past. When did you discover you wanted to be a photographer? The first time you figured it out. Not the first, I think I might, but when you know. So that the world is never the same again, okay? And then you have your defining moment when it totally crystallizes. So this is a clue, and somewhere along the story, it becomes real.
What's your advice for creating recurrent revenue in a wedding business where clients typically only need my services once?
What do you do again, Baltimore?
Wedding stationery and signage.
Okay, wedding stationery. Oh, that's tricky, man. Okay, you do bespoke service, right? In theory, you get married one time. You guys know what I mean when I say bespoke? Custom, one of a kind, one off. So his question is, how do I go from bespoke to subscription? You guys know what we're talking about when we say subscription? A subscription model. This is a one-off. You guys know the difference? Does anybody subscribe to anything that keep paying money month over month? All of us do. We just don't pay careful attention to it. If you have Spotify and you have premium, you're doing it. If you have YouTube premium, you're doing that. Now, we used to think, okay, that's software, it's media. We're used to doing that. Can we do it for creative services? That's the trick question here. Who here has a creative service that they build a subscription model for? You do? Okay, can you hand it to her? Hand it. What's your business?
So Curly Q Design Studio, I do logos, packaging, websites, and I found it really hard in the beginning to figure out how I could keep clients coming back to me because the process was 3 months, and then I'd kind of give them all their files and be like, okay, I'm here after this. If you need anything, shoot me an email, whatever, I'd follow up. So then I figured out subscription.
Just tell me the model.
Yeah, so it's a monthly subscription essentially, and there's X amount of hours, and then they pay me a fee every month for it. And
beautiful. They
submit an inquiry, and then we just do one project.
How much do you charge for the subscription?
$2,500 a month.
$2,500 a month.
Yeah.
How many clients do you service?
Two.
Two.
With the subscription model currently.
Okay. And how many hours are they buying?
So 20 hours.
20 hours.
Yep,
Okay.
per month.
What happens if they don't use all the hours? Rollover?
No
They're
rollover.
dead.
They're dead.
No
Yeah.
rollover.
So basically, if
That's fine. What happens if they use more?
It's rare that they use more.
But what happens if they do?
I will just do it for them.
You just eat it.
Yep.
Okay, so you have a flexible program.
Yep.
But what if they're consistently needing 60 hours of time from you?
Then a conversation will be had.
Okay,
and
you got
I'll
to
tell
charge
them
them
we're
more.
going over.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is beautiful, Alex. Alex actually does not have a subscription model. She has a retainer model. Okay, so she's like, hey man, let's retain her. There's a difference, and it doesn't seem like there's a big difference until I explain it to you, okay? So we're gonna take a minute to explain this, okay? The only reason why I know this is because I asked Ron Baker, who wrote the book Implementing Value Pricing. He's a wizard with economics and accounting, and he explained it to me. I'm like, whoa, now I know the difference, okay? Here we go. Okay, how many of you guys do a retainer model? Raise your hand. Okay, see, they know the difference, okay? So there's a difference between retainer subscription. A retainer is you're selling a prepackaged set amount of hours that they buy in advance for a slight discount. Okay, does that make sense? So what you're really selling is time. You're still selling time, but it's prepackaged in bulk. And whenever you buy something in bulk, and you know this because you go to Costco, it's cheaper. It makes sense. And you have some predictability in terms of revenue. You don't have to worry. You can hire people. Makes sense, right? Beautiful. A subscription is you don't sell time at all. You don't talk about time. You just talk about results.